Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish podcast. We're so excited that you've decided to tune in today. In the studio, we've got Father Mark Peacock from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and his parish is Holy Spirit. My goodness, can I tell you, the Holy Spirit was here in this episode today. Father Mark is sharing all about equipping and empowering your leaders. And wow, does he just have some great input when it comes to leading relationally. He also shares his authentic story into the priesthood, and I just know that you're going to be able to relate to him. Thanks for tuning in. Well, hey there, Father Mark. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Melissa, and I'm really looking forward to our time together. Thank you.
Well, this is exciting. First question I've got for you, I just want to know a little bit about you, and I want our listeners to get to hear your story. Can you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm Father Mark Peacock, the pastor here at Holy Spirit Parish, and I've been here 6 years. But my history, as far as parish ministry, begins a long time ago. I went to school at Aquinas College here right in Grand Rapids, and I went to school specifically to get a degree in religious studies because I wanted to be a youth minister. And after graduating, I did get a job in youth ministry. I was a youth minister for 5 years. And then after that, I was a director of religious education for 20 years. Wow. So my whole professional career, all I've known is parish ministry. And now I've been a parish priest for 17 years. I was at my first 2 years, I was at St. Jude here in town with a lovely pastor. And then I was made a pastor out in a country parish, which when the bishop assigned me there, I'm like, I don't even know where you're sending me. I have never been in the country. I didn't know country life whatsoever. I've been a suburban guy, but I loved it. I was there 9 years, and like I said, I've been here 6 years. But the other thing that has happened to me in my life, I was married for 18 years. I have 2 adult children. They both live in Colorado, and I have 3 grandchildren. And I just feel so blessed to have them in my life and in my ministry and in my parish life. It's just so good to have my children and my grandchildren as part of who I am as a priest. So that's a quick history. All I've known is parish life. All I've known is church work my whole parish life. So I think it's all comes together really well as a priest. So.
Oh, well, that is so exciting. I love how you've got such a dynamic experience that it's all in parish life, but you've been, you knew that you wanted to be spending time in parish life and pursued that right away. And I love how your kids and grandkids have become a part of that ministry. That's incredible.
Yeah. Before I got married, I actually pursued priesthood. I met with the vocation director, got all the information, and then it just didn't quite work out to enter seminary. But it was always been part of who I am. I always thought about once I got married, then I thought, well, maybe I'll be a permanent deacon. That was always part of my in my spirit also to pray about that. So, God's plan B is always better than our plan A.
Absolutely.
And that's certainly true in my life today. So
definitely. Oh, well, I love your story. It's so relatable too. And I just know that having kids and grandkids also can help with that relatability in your homilies as well and help you connect with your parishioners.
Yeah, certainly does.
Well, now let's fast forward a little bit and let's talk about your parish. Can you tell us a little bit about your parish and what things were like before you started coaching with Rebuilt?
Okay, so Holy Spirit is probably the second largest parish in our diocese. It's suburbia. This is my sweet spot. This is like a parish that I grew up with in the downriver area of Detroit. We have a little over 1,500 families. but it's built right in the middle of homes all around us. It's on the west side of Grand Rapids. There's a lot of Polish people here. I traded the Irish for the Polish. I was better with the Irish names than the Polish names. But when I came here, the staff, we had a really good staff, but they were all my age, and they were all people that had been here 10, 12, 13. And our business manager actually had been here almost 30 years. And things were going okay. We were struggling a little bit financially. But when I came and was looking at the staff and trying to support them as best I could, one gentleman retired, another took another job, another left to go. She was a grandmother, wanted to be with her grandkids more. And then the last person, the secretary, also retired. So within a few years, 2 to 3 years, 4 out of the 6 people all left for whatever reason. And so I began to look for new people. And all the people that I hired were all younger people, younger than myself, but people really on fire, Melissa, really on fire for the Lord. And even though some of really none of them had worked for a parish before, they all had other jobs, they all came with wonderful gifts and great excitement and a great passion to serve God's people, a great passion. Which really energized me. And it just really started to snowball something new and exciting within me. Now I wasn't the oldest on staff when I first came, but now I'm certainly the oldest. So sometimes called grandpa, which is fine. There was something about that changeover. Excitement, new ideas, fresh ideas, different ways of doing things, which I had never thought before. And it just re-energized my own priesthood. So the parish is, again, a strong parish. They really love their priests, support their priests. They've always been very, very good to them. And I know they pray for their priests. So I was very fortunate to come here. And it's really a wonderful parish. Really is a wonderful parish to serve.
Well, there's something that you said that I think is so impactful, and I want to highlight that. You had said that the staff you were bringing on, none of them had worked in a parish before, but
Right.
they brought their gifts, and that is huge right there. That's something that I think a lot of our rebuilt parishes have in common, is that the people they're hiring haven't worked in a parish before, but they're bringing their gifts and they're bringing that real world experience into the parish. And that puts a fresh set of eyes on everything. And that can bring that rejuvenation in.
Yeah, it certainly did, Melissa. That was so true in my time here. So true.
Well, I would love to shift and just talk a little bit about building your strategic team, because that's something that your coach Kimberly talks about all the time and brags on Father Mark and how well he has done with building this strategic team. So can you talk to us a little bit about that? How did you go about building that strategic team? And then how did you decide who to choose for each position?
Okay, well, that's a great question. I really appreciate it. But just to go back again to new ideas, fresh ideas, young ideas. So Mackenzie is our communication person and director. And she came to me one day privately, one of our meetings, and she's like, Father Mark, there's this thing called Rebuild. And they've got all these new exciting ideas. And I've been going online and reading about them and talking to someone. And she started going through all these ideas. And all I heard was more work, more work, more work. And we're going under a building campaign. And at that time, I was just beginning to think about we need to go under this building campaign. And I said to her, Mackenzie, I'll tell you what, you can go ahead and do that. You can pick anyone else you want on staff. You two can go do all that rebuild stuff. And I'm going to focus on building the new buildings that we had hoped to do. And she was a little disappointed. I took it to prayer. She's like, well, can you at least talk to someone? Please talk to someone. So I agreed to that, knowing that I was going to say, no, no, no. And I don't even remember the person's name. I remember the conversation, but as soon as it started, all of a sudden I felt this rush of the Holy Spirit. And that's all I can explain it to. And then as this woman began to explain to me about Rebuilt, and Mackenzie's at my side and shaking her head and the whole time, all of a sudden I thought, man, this is like exactly what we need. If we're rebuilding, if we're building these actual buildings, right? Wouldn't it be wonderful that we build the inside, the spiritual part of the building?
Yes.
And all of a sudden it was like divine revelation to me, that all of a sudden I thought, wow, this is a wonderful opportunity. So within this half hour, 45-minute conversation, all of a sudden I began to think, wow, this is really what we need. And so then next thing I know, I'm signing the contract and we're on our way and running. Well, then the first thing was to build the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way I looked at it is, we have a big staff here. There's 9 of us. And as I looked around and I thought, who really has a great vision? Who really has an idea that can impact the whole church, the whole parish, the school and the parish? Who are those few people that I really trust? Not that I don't trust everyone, but who do I really need to hear from in a different way? So I went about picking, Mackenzie, of course, and then we brought on Kate as our parish administrator, and then our music person, Joe. And it's just been a wonderful strategic team. We love each other, respect each other. We have great integrity for each other, and we're willing to speak honestly. And
Yes.
Sometimes honesty, the truth sometimes hurt, but when given in love, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So the leadership was really of those that I could see could have a big impact and had a broader vision of our parish, a greater vision, and a fresh perspective, right? An absolute fresh, brand new perspective. So
You've made some key points there with why you chose who you chose. So people who had that big vision, people that you could trust, people that you could work well with, people who would bring that fresh perspective. All of these are some of those key traits, and tell me if I missed one of them. But when, some people ask us, well, how do I even go about starting this? And where do I start? And it's about finding people that meet the key traits for your strategic team and people that you're going to work well with. And I agree with you. You need people that are going to be honest with you, even when that honesty sometimes hurts a little bit. But it's important where, the ego has no place at the table on a strategic team. Am I right?
Right. And yeah. Well, and I work best. I am not the Lone Ranger.
That's incredible.
My style of leadership is exactly the strategic team. And maybe that was one of the selling points when I was having this first interview with somebody. When I described my leadership style to them, that I'm not the Lone Ranger. I like to work in community. I like to get feedback, and then come back and make the decision, and we move ahead together. And that's my ideal leadership, and it all comes together in that strategic team.
That's you said it. And I love that you said you're not the Lone Ranger, because I think so many of our parish priests think they have to be. And there's another
Right,
way. It's having the strategic team to support you.
right, right.
Well, you've shared some of the needs that you've got from a strategic team. How can a leader like yourself recognize the needs of your team?
Now, I haven't read any leadership books. I haven't written any leadership books. I'll be honest with you. I'll go back to when I realized what my leadership style is, which is a very team focused, getting some feedback, make the decision, and then we all move together. What I've always done in all my priesthood with my staff is to meet. I have a time for every staff person every week. So, I have some on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And it's not only just finding out about the business, about the parish. What I find out, it's really about finding about you.
Yes.
How can I better serve you? I'm here as the parish priest to serve the staff and to make sure that they succeed in everything that they can, that they have all the tools that they can to be very successful. And I have found that works well for me. So yes, do we get down to business? Yes. Do I need to know what's going on? Yes. I mean, on any given weekend, somebody can ask me after Mass about anything in the parish, and I could have a pretty good answer to that. I may not have the fullest answer, but I could have a pretty good answer. But I also know what's going on with our staff individually and personally. I know their families, and I think that helps just generate a sense of leadership, of comfortability, and support. They know that I am there for them. And it's just not, you're here to get this job done. You're here just to do this role. And then you go away and you're whatever. But, like all of us, we all have situations in our lives. We all have things that need to be prayed for. We all have difficulties. And I just think the more that I know about the person, the better they're going to be and to serve the church. So, to me, it's all about relationships, right?
Yes.
It is. I think Jesus Christ's ministry was that. It's all about relationships.
Absolutely.
It's all about being with people in their good times and bad. It's all about loving God's people in any way we can. So that's sort of my leadership style. There may be others that write great books on other things, but for me, it's relationships. It's all about building that strength within the relationship and that they know that I'm there for them at any
Yes.
time.
Well, there's so much power in leading that way. And those weekly one-on-one statuses, so much can be accomplished in one of those. I mean, I personally love that approach. I think it's great because you get to know the person holistically. You get to know
Right.
how you can support them personally and in ministry, but then also you connect on that deeper level. And it's a great way to build that trust and build that bond.
Right.
And then
Right.
that also kind of leads into my next question, which my question is about what are some of those tools and resources that you provide to your staff members, and what sort of recommendations on tools and resources do you have for our community?
Well, again, it would go back with relationships, but I also try to be passionate. I'm also passionate about being a priest. I love being a priest. I love everything about being a priest. And I just try to be passionate in my preaching and my work, in the way I deal with the staff. And I guess what it would be is to encourage them to greatness. Just encourage them to be the best person they can be that day, and whatever that means. Some days it's a lot of success, and others days, it may not be that great success story that they may want. But for me, it's just that encouragement, that being passionate. Every day I go out, walk out into the office. I try to stop at everyone's door, say hello, what's going, hello. Tell them to look busy, I'm coming by, so for that, I just really try to be as encouraging as I can to be great, be as great as you can in the Lord. So.
Oh, that's amazing. And I'm sure they appreciate that encouragement too, because not everybody gets that anywhere else. So when they can get that from you, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, when we talk about empowering your staff, one way we do that is through delegation. So how do you delegate and empower your staff to take ownership of their own areas of ministry?
Yeah. When I look at myself, first of all, I need to know what are my strengths, right? And what are my weaknesses? And I look for people that can play to my strengths, but also play to my weaknesses.
Yes.
And when I look at them, I also want to know what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. And how can I help them then to be great in the Lord. But it's really understanding myself first, I think. It starts there. There's things that I can do well, and there's things that I don't do well. But when I know that, and I can look to someone else and I said, you can help me in this area. And our administrator, our office administrator, helps me tremendously. She's very strong. I'm not always so strong. And she helps me with making those decisions, right? She's like, well, this is a pathway that we could probably take to get through that. And I look to her for that help. And I know she can do it. And I encourage her then to make those, to look to that and to help formulate those ideas, so then I can help me to make an informed decision. So when I know their strengths and weaknesses, and I can match those up with my strengths and weaknesses, then I think together we can move forward really well.
Oh my goodness. And you've said you haven't read any leadership books. That's Leadership 101 right there, is knowing your own strengths and weaknesses and being able to identify those on your team and who can pick up where you need help and who can play to your strengths too.
Wow. Well, there you go. All right.
You've got it.
Thanks,
You're
Melissa.
doing amazing at this.
Thank you.
Well, what sort of personal growth and development do you encourage for your team to do? So what are some ways that you practice personal growth and development in your parish?
All right. First and foremost, we need to be prayerful people.
Yes.
First and foremost, we need to dedicate our lives to Christ. We need to dedicate our lives in prayer and hopefully before the Blessed Sacrament. We just need to center ourselves in Christ and make sure we're there. So, of course, there's always reading material, and I struggle with that. I'm not a good book reader, but since I've been with Rebuilt, I dedicated most nights, 15 minutes before bed, I try to read something about that will help me in my ministry. The other thing, though, and I'll go back to more the relational thing, I try to tell the staff, since they're all married, that their life needs to be balanced.
Yes.
It needs to be balanced between work and family. And I always tell them family comes first before anything. If anybody's child is sick or family member needs help, that takes precedence over anything else that we're doing. I just think it's important. I struggled with that when I was married, and when I was a director of religious ed for 20 years, I worked crazy hours. I just did, and I felt as though maybe my family struggled in that. So when I'm here, I really just try to encourage them to keep a good balance. This is the hardest working staff I've ever had the pleasure and the blessing to work with. They are the most dedicated, the hardest working staff that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And I just want them to keep that balance, between family and work. Because if their family life is not strong, if their family life is not good, then they're going to struggle here. They're just going to. They're going to be thinking about the problems with their child or their spouse or whatever, and they're not going to be able to be everything. But if they're able to keep that in as best they can, then they're going to be better here. So, so for me, it's about that balance, and I have to keep it too, right? I mean, I have to keep a balance also of my own prayer, which I dedicate, a good amount of time to, and I have to lead by example. I mean, I have to lead by example.
Absolutely.
And to make sure that we center our meetings in prayer. We just went to the National Eucharistic Congress.
How was it? Did you love it?
Life-changing, Melissa.
Amazing.
Life-changing. And again, it just inspired, just the whole thing was just a life-changing event. That's the best thing I can say. But it really, all that time, every pre-session during the day ended with a holy hour. And then every night ended with a holy hour. So I was on my knees a lot.
That's amazing.
But it was powerful. And again, it just sort of centered me that, we just need to be about the Lord and the Eucharist in our lives. Never take it for granted and know the power of that.
Right.
So I'm encouraging the staff that during the day they can go into Blessed Sacrament and have time before the Blessed Sacrament. I'm encouraging them to attend daily Mass, and they are. And I think we're going to see great benefits from that.
That's incredible. And I also love what you talked about with balance, because we know that in parish life that we're working nights, weekends, holidays. We're working some of the times when, most people are spending time with their family. And so in order to prevent burnout to our parish staffs, it's important to help keep that balance. And I think it's tremendous. And you're setting a great example for them and for other parishes that it doesn't have to lead to burnout, that you can have that balance. And
Right.
I love that you have them incorporate that prayer time into their workday to help center
Right.
themselves and just bring themselves back to the Lord. That's incredible. Well, you've got a great thing going here as far as what you're doing for them developmentally. How do you reward your parish staff? So how do you recognize their achievements? What does that look like?
One of the things we have started doing, we have staff lunches like 4 or 5 times a year.
Ooh, tell me about those.
Well, we have this lady that in the parish, and she gets the food for us. Either buys it, she sets up the room, decorates it all nice and everything, brings the food in, and it's an hour. But we just enjoy each other and laugh, tell stories, see how everyone's doing. But everybody comes. We make sure that everyone comes to those little luncheons that we have. And, it's just not throwing a pizza and a bottle of pop on the table, right? This hospitality coordinator does a tremendous job. She decorates, and real plates and real food, and it just makes it really special. The other thing is I do write them personal notes every once in a while, and just if somebody's done something just what I think is just spectacular, just a little handwritten note. Handwritten notes to me are something rare and special. If somebody actually writes out a note, so I do try to do that and support them in that way. I've also written their spouses and thanked their spouses
Love this.
for offering their spouse to work in the church, and knowing that it's difficult and it takes them away from them. But I've also written a note and thanked the spouse for the ministry that their spouse does here at the parish. So, yeah, those are
That
some
is
of the things.
incredible. Oh my gosh. Well, who doesn't love a staff lunch? That sounds amazing. And I love that you have a hospitality person who decorates and makes it nice for you. But those handwritten notes go such a long way. And I'm blown away with the fact that you also will write them to their spouses, thanking them for that time away from home and for the ministry that they're doing. That is a game changer. That's incredible. What
Right.
That's a low hanging fruit right there that any parish leader can do for any staff member that they've got. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. When I've done that, I've heard from like every spouse has thanked me for that little note. So yeah,
I
it's good
love
to do
that.
every once in a while. It's
I
good to
love
do.
that. Well, we've talked a lot about empowering your staff. I would love to hear how does feedback play a role in your staff? What does that feedback culture look like when it comes to equipping and empowering your staff?
Feedback comes, our strategic team meeting that we have set on Thursday mornings for a couple hours. Again, I'll go back to, I have people of great faith and great integrity, and we hold each other accountable, and we're very honest. And that's where the feedback comes back. Did it work? Didn't it work? How could we be better? What could we do better? The other thing is, the staff is not afraid to tell me when I messed up, and that's fine. You know, I don't prove to know everything or do everything correctly. But I appreciate that because I know they only want me to be better.
Right.
And there's things that I do well and things that I struggle with. But I know that when they deliver it in love, I'll do anything that somebody tells me out
Yes.
of love.
Yeah.
If you want to come and criticize me, I sort of dig in like anyone probably and may not listen wholeheartedly. But if you tell me out of great love,
Yes.
then I'm probably going to do what you're going to say.
That's the key right there.
Yeah. And so again, I think for the staff, I think we trust each other. We hold each other, and we just try to be honest. And I really appreciate it. I really, really do.
That's so
So,
good. Well, you talk a lot about relational leadership, and I think that's key here. How do you ensure that your staff feels supported and valued at all times?
well, it's probably a lot what I already said, but it's just to be with them too,
Yeah.
right? We have little goofy times during the day where somebody will start saying something and then I hear more laughter or whatever. And so they feel free to express themselves. We've had a seminarian here for the last 6 months. He's been such a joy, very much of an extrovert and very much enjoys life. He's going to be an absolute wonderful priest one day. Can't wait to share ministry with him. But again, he's brought that joy also to the staff, and he can be fun, and then the staff has freedom to join in. So I think they know that they're valued, that they can just be who they want to be.
Yes.
Yeah,
Being
and be
authentic.
crazy or be sad, whatever it might be, and they'll still be accepted.
It sounds like you've built a culture of authenticity and fun in your parish.
I hope so.
Oh my goodness. Well, despite all that fun stuff, now here's the hard question for you.
Okay.
What are some of those hard or common challenges around empowering your staff? How can they be overcome?
Well, we certainly do have them. That's true. We certainly do have those challenging times. But like this morning, I mean, we just needed to communicate to each other not only what we think, but how we feel about it, right? What do I think about the situation? And then why do I feel that way so strongly in that situation? And try to bring that home. We've got a meeting tomorrow coming up, and I just really needed to say, this is how I feel about this situation right now. I think I need to bring it back over here. And I think we're straying away a little bit. And it was just to be able to say, I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable right now of where we're heading. And I just want to express this to all of you. So I do try to think it's about sharing not only what we think, but how do we feel about that situation. So to try to help, see, well, why do you think that way? Or why, what's the feeling behind that, perhaps, to help me better understand, what's going on. So yeah, that's what I try.
It's amazing. And now here's a big question for you now. What impact have you seen in your parish since putting together this strategic team and empowering them and equipping them?
Oh my gosh, Melissa, how much time do you got?
I have so much time. Tell me
Yeah,
everything.
well, this last year, or year and a half, since we've been rebuilt, I never knew there could be so much more to parish life. As a priest, we go through seminary. We're taught of, how to celebrate the sacraments and how to preach well, and and when you get in parish life, if you do those things, you can be successful. If you bring the sacraments to people and celebrate the Eucharist well, and that people will come. But what I didn't realize, and which was a huge awakening to me, was how are you welcoming people? How are you welcoming the stranger? How are you welcoming those that have been coming? What are you doing to retain them? What are you doing to keep them? When I came, I said at the beginning, we were struggling a little bit financially. When it came to my attention that our collections had been flat for 13 years, and I just told the people, I'm like, do you realize our collections have been flat? They have not increased in 13 years. And I encouraged them to do better. All of a sudden, people started giving more. But since in the last year and a half, we've really encouraged. We've come a long way with our greeters. We've got more greeters. We've worked really hard with our greeters. We've worked really hard with our ushers. We have this this welcome table. We started with this small little round table, and it was back in the corner, and we had people there and a few things on the table, and hardly anybody went to it. Now we have this beautiful welcome table, and it's just gorgeous. It's big, it's wood, it's got glass. We have all our material there. Since we've done that, our attendance, our people going back to the welcome table has just shot right up. Because I think they're looking at it and go, well, they're serious, right? They're really serious about welcoming me. And it's very visible in our gathering space. It's very visible. Where before this little round table, it was like, it wasn't real visible. And I don't think it set that sense of, like this is a real priority for them.
Right.
Now that we have this, it's a real landmark in the gathering space. And like I said, our people who go back there we can show it, filling out our cards, all their information has just shot right up. So the learning curve for me in the last year and a half is like, there's so much more to do. There is so much more we can do. And our mission statement, we had this mission statement, and I said to the people, who can recite the mission statement? Nobody recited the mission statement because it was 4 sentences long or something. We condensed it down to 6 words. Every Mass, I start with, what's our mission statement? What's our mission statement? And people yell it back to me. And I said, that's what we got to just keep working on. So they know our mission statement. Hopefully they feel welcomed by a greeter or an usher. And then we send them back to the welcome table where once again, a family greets them. We have something free for them that they take away. We have these cool coffee mugs, and they go away with something from us, and hopefully they come back. So
Amazing.
There's just so much more to church now that I never realized. So much more.
And forgive me if you don't want me to ask this, and we can cut it out if you don't, but it sounds like you're rejuvenated around what's yet to come and what's yet to do in your parish. But is it true that at one point you may have been thinking about retirement before you began coaching?
Yes, that is true. I don't want to go on record saying that I'm not going to retire, but this has been, my last year and a half being with Rebuilt has definitely changed my priesthood for the better. The strategic team has also enhanced that feeling, absolutely. Going to the National Eucharistic Congress has also really helped. And I love ministry. So we'll see. I won't say, there's going to have to be a day that I do want to retire, but when that date will be, we'll have to determine that. But I've got a few more years in me yet, so that's really good. So.
I love that. I love that. Well, Father Mark, thank you for giving your time and for serving our community. I just know that there are parish leaders out there like you who are now going to feel inspired because they've gotten the opportunity to hear your authentic story. And we are so grateful for that.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Well, again, Rebuilt has really helped, has really, really helped and energized and has taught me a lot. And I just thank God every day. I thank God every day. So
amazing. Well, for our community, we do have a free resource to help you take a look at what your leadership team looks like. And if you go to rebuiltparish.com/leadership evaluation, or just take a look at the link in the show notes, you'll be able to download that resource, and that will give you a jump start on to putting together this type of strategic team that Father Mark's been talking to us about. Well, once again, Father Mark, thank you, and thank you to our community of listeners. We are so grateful for you, and we'll see you next time.
All right, Melissa, thank you. God bless.